Program 5, affordable housing, which reached 11.1 million rand in the quarter, which is also less by 92.5%, given the difficulties we have just mentioned. However, the portfolio has made recommendations and observations on the work at hand. The committee was therefore concerned about underspending on personal costs. The projected spending of 102 million rand personal costs against 86.3 million rand that is spent at the end of the first quarter represented the underspending by 15.8 million rand, and it was very unacceptable to the committee. We are therefore recommending that the department should ensure that the spending of personal costs by filling all posts that in the department must be speeded. The title deed restoration grant was not transferred due to the late submission of business plan by provinces. Only one province was found to have given the plan. It was Western Cape, but even in that, you find that having had the plan, the money was not necessarily spent for the plan at hand, but for something else which was not supposed to be done. So all the provinces could not meet their plans, and therefore the department could not spend their money, given the fact that the money is on the basis of grants that shall be applied for by the provinces. We are therefore asking that the department should assist provincial department in compiling and submitting their business plans on time. That also consequence management should be considered in cases where non-performance by the departmental heads are found to be the case. The committee observed that human settlement was still built in peripheries away from amenities. The department should develop a strategy to redress building human settlement in periphery of towns and cities. Lastly, the committee observed constructions of houses was hampered by the hard lockdown in response to COVID-19. There should be a lockdown recovery plan to ensure that delays in constructions are accredited. It is for this reason that the ANC commends that in places where the department
I will now recognize political parties wishing to make a declaration. I'll start with the DA.
House Chairperson, the very fact that this report is only now coming before this House, more than a year and a half after the quarter concluded, is the finest indictment yet of this ANC-led portfolio committee's rank incompetence and barefaced lack of interest in genuine oversight. Honourable members, I could not think of a better tool with which to articulate the complete disregard for parliamentary process than the glacial pace that this ANC-dominated committee has taken to ATC this report almost a year after the period in question concluded. When the rules of this Parliament were developed, House Chairperson, they were done so with the intention of providing every honourable member in this House with the tools and the protections that they would need to genuinely hold government and the executive to account. Sadly, this report demonstrates conclusively to this House that the cadres on this committee are not actually interested in progress or in genuine accountability. They're simply interested in patronage and power at whatever cost. They're not interested in parliamentary ethics. They're interested in protecting their own. They have no regards for the rules, painstakingly developed over generations to guard against the abuse of power by ruling elites in this very House. Honourable members, imagine a committee where crucial statutory reports based on recommendations adopted by this House do not serve before committee because the chairperson is not willing to find time in the diary. Imagine a committee in which the ruling party staff members edit parliamentary reports after the deliberations of ANC study groups before they serve at meetings. Where those same ANC staff members are so brazen that they don't even bother to remove their initials from documents before they circulate it to committee members. The issue of ANC study groups censoring the flow of information to Parliament committees is not a new issue. But I ask House Chairperson, how many more Zondo commissions of inquiry must be held before those charged with the proper and correct functioning of Parliament will act? In coming to the substance of this report, it would be an exercise in absolute futility for me to speak to the first quarter performance of a department that has already months ago tabled its annual report. Whilst the number of households living in informality has grown from 1.4 million at the ANC's ascent to power to more than 2.1 million today, the Housing Department achieved a miserable 59% of their targets in the past year, but they spent 98% of their budget. Of the target of 20% of land falling within priority development areas to be rezoned, only 0.14 was met, with the highest percentage of grant funding invested by a province being in the Western Cape. No surprises there because the DA gets things done. In Mpumalanga, the Northern Cape, and Limpopo, our chairperson's home province, they did not achieve a single percentage point. Of the 300 planned Phase 3 informal settlement upgrades, nothing was achieved. In terms of title deeds, only the Western Cape, Northwest, and KZN spent their full title deed grants. And in places like the Eastern Cape, municipalities indicated to our committee that 26 years into democracy, they still don't have systems in place for the registration of title deeds. This, whilst the DA-run Western Cape has now rolled out a smart electronic system and has delivered over 6,300 deeds in the last year alone. The ex-housing minister, Honourable Sisulu's continuous rotation of acting executives and board members has now turned the department's entities into fertile ground for rank criminality. Senior ANC cronies, the likes of Batabile Dlamini, Menzi Simalani, Stevens Nkululeko Poya, Susan Shabangu, Boyce Keys, Chimani Maxwali, Magasela Mzobe were all hired by the Honourable Minister Sisulu during her time in office to execute the ANC's nefarious political agenda and their factional wars. The failed Housing Development Agency, a key vehicle for the ex-minister's patronage network, has again this year incurred more than 147 million rand in irregular expenditure and is now again under administration. The time has come, honourable members, for a culture of consequence management to be enforced in this portfolio. We, all of us, we are the watchdogs of this democracy. And if we fail, South Africa fails. Instead of scheduling time for another expensive study tour to a construction site, this committee would do well to perhaps spend some time in the Western Cape Department of Human Settlements, learning from them how to really get things done. I thank you.
Thank you, EFF. Allow them to just.
Enkosi Chairperson, ndibulise President we EFF, ndibulise wonke amalungu ondliwo semthetho. I thank you. Chairperson, today is 27 years after the entitlement of political freedom. The country still has a backlog of just less than 3 million housing units. This means that millions of people are still without access to proper home, with flushing toilets and running water. Despite this reality, the department announced last year that it was dramatically scaling down its provision of housing to the citizens of this country because such promoted dependence. This flawed reasoning fails to appreciate a number of factors, at the center of which is government failure, that have led to chronic homelessness in the country. Black people do not have land on which they can build their houses. Black people are largely unemployed and cannot afford to buy their own houses. The majority of unemployed black people are getting paid barely enough to buy food for themselves and their families. The department is even failing to use available resources to improve the lives of marginalized and homeless people. Program 3 of the annual performance plan, which deals with informal settlement, was meant to have utilized a budget of 250 million rands in the first quarter. But the department nearly spent about 8 million of this money. This is so because the department does not give a damn about people living in formal settlement who are exclusively black. The same applies for the program aimed at affordable housing, in which only 11 million rands of the target, it's 150 million, was spent. The department has also done nothing to ensure that the houses that they have actually built are allocated to beneficiaries. These houses remain empty and susceptible to being vandalized. For example, if you go to Greater Town Municipality in Ward 18, Ward 14, Ward 20, you will see vandalized unoccupied RDP houses, and all these unoccupied finished RDP houses and others which are incomplete we built before 2016. The Department of Human Settlement has not taken further action against the officials implicated in fraud and corruption in the awarding of the tenders with regard to the temporal residential units in Limpopo. The SIU has shared their finding with regards to this matter and has recommended the remedial action with the minister and management, but no action has been taken against the implicated employees. We can only assume that these officials are left alone because they worked in tandem with the politicians in committing this fraud. We reject this report as EFF. Thank you, Chairperson.
Raleboga Metafeni, IFP. IFP. I proceed. I'm not going back. FF plus. I proceed. ACD. Thank you. UDM. ATM. Good.
No declaration. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's that now? NFP.
No declaration, House Chair.
Thank you. AIC. No. COPE. No. PAC. Al-Jama. The ANC.
I get to make the same time. I swear to you, son. Noting what our opponents have said, I think there are a few things that we need to clarify. Member from DA has got this internal hatred against the African National Congress. And therefore, in everything that she raises, will always represent that negativity. This report was 80 in March, and everything that happens in this parliament, it goes through Whipari. Your Whipari was involved and would have known those changes. The Zondo Commission is instituted by this African National Congress. And we are not shy to can say whatever those recommendations are, the African National Congress will respond to those challenges. So you can't come here and want to grandstand as if the ANC has put all those issues aside. Honorable members, as the African National Congress, we rise to support this report. The glorious movement is guided by the principle of Freedom Charter, which proclaims the right to dignity of shelter. Access to adequate housing is rightly captured in the Constitution and is one of the mandate of the Department of Human Settlement and its entity. And they play a pivotal role in ensuring delivery to the people of South Africa. The report presented here in this House illustrates that the department and its entities are indeed at work to provide investment We are not providing houses, just houses, but it's investment to the people of the South. Honorable members, the different programs of the department is to ensure that different human settlement challenges are resolved for our people. While we welcome the targets achieved, but we must also make you aware this report reflects on some challenges that were not totally achieved, which is Program 1 and Program 2. But also the department is also mandated to make sure that it ensures on the plans and the timelines coming from the provinces that these business plans must come on time for the implementation of those programs. Honorable members, Program 3, which is informal settlement, I like what Utatu Mandela have said. He's naming it inferior settlement. I think Chief Whip should consider that naming because it's inferior since it was created by the settlers who came here in 1652. They made every attempt to make sure that the African people are not settled in a very considered way. I think that debate of rural and agriculture, it's exactly towards what was created in those many centuries of apartheid and colonialism. And we are calling on the department to respond and make sure that it addresses this informal settlement that is cropping up in our country. We must note as well the tradition. I don't know whether it's a tradition, but anyway, you could call it a tradition because it was how EFF was formed. For them to illegally occupy any land in the country and form these informal settlements in anywhere, anyhow, whether it's wetland, whether it's rocky land, that's what they were doing. So they are not they are not anywhere different from what the national parties did, which is today a devil advocacy that are there.
You are drunk when
the targets in the. I'm not sure.
Honorable member, please take your seat for a while. Please take your seat for a while. Honorable Ntlangwini, what you have just said will be considered. You know that it's unparliamentary to say what you have said. And you repeat again, you will be removed. But there will be a ruling on what you have said. Thank you. Proceed.
Sorry, House
Thank
Chair.
you very much.
While you are on the correcting members, we are having a member that is sitting without a mask the whole day there. Can we please have him to put on his mask?
Okay. To everybody, it's a reminder. In the House, I think I'm the only one who can be without the mask and the one on the podium. Thank you very much. Proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. The ANC commends the department and its entity on the work thus far and implores the department to take into cognizance the recommendations of the Portfolio Committee of Human Settlement, and together we will work towards providing shelter to the people of the country as contained in the Constitution of this of the Constitution and the National Development Plan. It is against this background that the ANC accept this report. But you must also reflect, Chair, that standing here, it resembles the will of the people. We are not standing here because we want to be here necessarily, but the will of the people have said that we must come here. And when we stand here, we must speak facts, not wara here. We must speak facts on what is happening in the department. We take pride and strength on the mandate that is bestowed upon ourselves, and we dare not fail the people of South Africa, and we'll make sure that we'll deliver to the logic conclusion of what we have been mandated to do. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Re a leboga sebata. Honorable members, in accordance with Rule 85, what the Honorable Member Ntlangwini just said when the Honorable Member was speaking, it's not allowed. May I just ask now that Honorable Ntlangwini, can you please withdraw the words that you said? Is Honorable Ntlangwini still on the platform? If not,
I withdraw, Chair. I'm not a coward to run away. I withdraw.
thank you, Honorable Ntlangwini. Please, let's respect one another in the House. Okay, thank you. Let's proceed now. May I now recognize the Honorable Chief Whip?
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. I move that the report be adopted.
We had deliberations. Is there anybody against that?
Please note the objection of the DA.
The objection of the DA will be noted. Any other party? No, any other party. Therefore, the report is agreed to. Can we have the Secretary read in the last order of the day?
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure on 2020-21, first and second quarter performance of Department of Public Works and Infrastructure and Property Management Trading Entity.
Usihlalo Mamtobongwan. Siphe yona.
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable House Chairperson, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, honorable members in the House and in the virtual platform, South Africans, Molweni Nonke. The Portfolio Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure is tabling to the House for debate and adoption the report of the first and second quarter of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure and its entities for the financial years of 2020 and 2021. These quarterly reports are important instruments with which we look at the weaknesses that the department needs to address long before the BRRR. And all the issues that we raise were warning signals that would improve services to client departments and the people of South Africa. On the 25th of November 2020, as the Portfolio Committee of Public Works and Infrastructure, we considered the first and the second quarter performance of the department and its entities, and the report that I'm tabling is focused mainly on the achievements, programmatic output in respect of the performance indicators and targets that were stated in the annual performance plan for 2020-2021 financial year. In all the programs, low expenditure on compensation of employees and goods and services is a feature of performance reports on the department, which is contrary to the objectives of the National Development Plan and the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan that stresses that we should ensure a capable state. This matter, as the Portfolio Committee, we agreed that it needs to be urgently addressed. Stable leadership in the PMTE required urgent attention as key Deputy Director General positions remain vacant at the time. Without consistent stable leadership in the department and the PMTE, that weakens its engagements with the Treasury and other national departments, where it should lead the task of ensuring client departments that adhere to their contractual obligations to pay management fees and debt on time to the PMTE. PMTE requires professional, qualified, and experienced property investment registry management services personnel must be recruited and appointed on a stable, consistent basis in the real estate information and registry, real estate investment services, real estate investment trusts, and real estate management services. The overdraft and debt of the PMTE is growing at an alarming rate. The trend of under-recovery of management fees for construction and maintenance and rental is causing this debt to continue to grow. And that is why, as the Portfolio Committee, we felt that filling in the vacant positions of this crucial entity will see that there is a change in this. But House Chair, as much as this report, our friends there will say it's old, we have seen an improvement and some of these things have been addressed. The completion of the Enterprise Resource Planning System, Archibus with SAGE, and all modules of the Archibus software system to be fully rolled out so that ongoing incidences of underspending and irregular expenditure are addressed. In-year reports of the senior management team to the Minister, Treasurer, and the Portfolio Committee, including evidence of predetermined performance targets so that weaknesses and challenges are properly understood and addressed towards solution. The value of government assets, as we know that Department of Public Works and Infrastructure is the owner of the majority of all of the government assets. The value of government assets in the immovable asset register can be unlocked and the PMTE can operate efficiently and progress on the road to being a profit-making agent. The IAR, which is Immovable Asset Register, is improved and updated in correlation with the records of the Deeds Office, Geographical Information Systems records, and National Client Departments and Provincial Municipal Immovable Asset Register. The updated IAR as a prerequisite of collecting monthly management fees balanced with payments of rates and services in compliance with the PMFM and Treasury regulations. In Program 3, EPWP reported significant underspending due to the withholding of conditional grants due to the non-compliance with the Division of
Honorable Ntobongwani, check your monitor on the left. I'm sorry, your time has expired. Once it's red, it says that.
Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. There has been a request for declarations. I will start with the DA. Ntibi, Mudise, awa. No. If I see your name again, Ragoncha. Proceed, Honourable Member.
Thank you, House Chair. The report under consideration reflects the performance of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure during the first and second quarters of the 2020-21 financial year. It is worth noting that a large portion of the 6 months under discussion was spent in hard lockdown as the country faced the initial shock of COVID-19 and the ongoing state of disaster resulting in the world's longest lockdown. This lockdown had a significant impact on the ability of the department to meet some of its targets, especially infrastructure projects and the EPWP program. Compensation of employees and goods and services were the two line items consistently underspent across the various programs. While the justification for the latter was because many normal business activities such as travel, catering and subsistence were suspended due to COVID-19, there can be little justification for failing to fill vacant positions in a department that is failing to meet its mandate across the board. Coupled with the vacant positions, there are far too many critical posts in which we have people acting. While those key people have done an admirable job, they are hampered by the temporary nature of their roles. Planning for long-term projects can never be properly undertaken by a person assigned to a function for 3 to 6 months. A person acting in a strategic post will be nothing more than a stopgap, plugging holes and bailing out the water with a bucket while the ship sinks. Minister de Lille has completely failed to address this situation, particularly as the Director General remains suspended with no indication of when he will be returning to office, if at all. It is time to address the leadership lacuna in the department, and with it the filling of critical vacancies that will allow Public Works to fulfill its mandate. So what is the mandate of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure? The extremely outdated website of the department lists the following 4 elements: the handyman of the state, the leader of the EPWP, the regulator of the industries and associated professions falling under its jurisdiction, and the asset manager for and behalf of the state. Unfortunately, the department has basically failed to meet any one of these 4 mandates over the period under review. It has failed to even reach a 50% score on any of the programs except Program 4, Property and Construction Industry Policy and Research, which overspent for the period due to an unbudgeted transfer to the problematic and financially distressed Independent Development Trust. While not the worst performing of the 5 programs, EPWP attained a 37.3% expenditure for the 2 quarters. This is the one program which has a direct bearing on communities and households. The Expanded Public Works program was launched by the department in 2004. According to the website, the program is a key government initiative which contributes to government's policy priorities in terms of decent work and sustainable livelihoods, education, health, rural development, food security and land reform, and the fight against crime and corruption. EPWP operates within 4 sectors: the infrastructure sector, the non-state sector, the environment and culture sector, and the social sector. It stands to reason that when there is underspending on EPWP, this translates into a decrease in work opportunities, and this in turn literally means that fewer families have food on their tables. Part of the problem with EPWP rests on the shoulders of the Minister as policy leader for the department. The failure of the program to find an effective means through the application of the policy of holding EPWP partners accountable means that enforcement and implementation of EPWP is sporadic and ineffective. It does, however, have direct bearing on the participants. No grants means no work. Minister de Lille must find a way of ensuring that there is compliance with the program without it having a detrimental effect on the beneficiaries. In total, the EPWP program underspent over the 2 quarters by 399.4 million, of which 171 million rand budgeted for was not spent by the non-state sector work opportunities implementers. Provincial departments remain consistent defaulters on the implementation of EPWP, mostly health and education, and as a result of their failure, 22.1 million rand was withheld. 22 million rand that should have been feeding families and providing dignity through work. This ANC government cannot continue to speak about uplifting our poor and indigent people when we are failing to spend allocated budgets on poverty alleviation programs which provide work opportunities. This government must do better. I thank you.
EFF.
Thank you, House Chair. Chairperson, the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure is the custodian of most state property in this country, from land to buildings. Despite this, the department has been unable to imagine its role in relation to the developmental aspirations of the nation. The property management trading entity has been particularly useless in this regard and has been tacitly promoting corruption due to its failure to properly account for the full extent of the department's property ownership footprint. Many government buildings and farms have been surrendered to corrupt officials and apartheid-era operatives because of the PMTE cannot conduct audits of the properties that the state owns. They cannot even account for the number of state properties leased out to private entities and individuals, losing millions of rands in the process. The buildings that the department owns are not properly maintained, and this includes our own parliamentary villages. With this reality, it is mind-boggling that the department consistently underspends on its budget, hampering any hope of implementing any of its plans. The department underspent by 48 million, for instance, because of its ability to fill.
Mayako?
Yes, ma'am.
You can sit. Is that a point of order?
Chairperson, I'm very worried about my health. And the fact that parliamentarians continue to not take us serious here. Like the pastor and that lady with the pink, I forgot her name, that DA member. And
okay, it's about the masks.
yeah, they continue to do it.
Okay. No, honorable members, please, let's respect the protocols. Please. No, don't respond to that. Let's just try. I know that we say we are not immune. Please. I think the deputy speaker spoke to this when we started the session. So let's not. I'm sorry, Mamiako, please proceed.
The department underspent by 48 million, for instance, because of its inability to fill vacant positions. These are fully funded positions meant to perform critical functions of the department, but the management has been unable to ensure that people are employed to perform these tasks. The failure to fill these positions is also the cause of the many problems reported by the Property Management Trading Entity, which has a number of Deputy Director General positions vacant. There is no reason why the debt and overdraft facility of the PMTE is growing at such an alarming rate. This entity should be profit-making because of the vast portfolio of properties it manages, but it is now swimming in debt. The committee has not been firm enough in playing oversight in this department, and therefore the EFF rejects this report. Thank you.
Thank you. IFP.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. The Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, like its counterparts, has failed to utilize its budget and has only spent 1.85 billion out of its 8 billion allocation. The budget vote that was passed for this department has amounted to nothing, as its 4 main programs failed to achieve 25% of their targets. The failure of this department to utilize its budget means that the department has failed to fulfill its mandate, meaning that it has failed to meet its constitutional obligations and has therefore failed the people of South Africa. Reading the report, one begins to see that this department largely failed in its mandate because it failed to appoint the right people in the right positions. As we speak today, many more millions of rands were underspent because the department failed to fill these vacant positions. These failures must be addressed. They cannot be justified in a country that has such a high unemployment rate and in which there's such a backlog in public works. The question that arises in light of these budgetary failures is, what is our role in all this? Our role is one of oversight and accountability. It will be interesting to see how this committee processes the report by this department and how it responds. It is our responsibility to engage the department to enhance the fulfillment of its mandate, but that should not be the end of our role. The failure of this department represents the broader failures of the current government. We should act collectively to hold government accountable in all areas, not just this department. This department, like its counterparts, has continued to demonstrate a lack of accountability in many different ways, much to the detriment of the people of South Africa. One such example is the millions wasted on the botched Beitbridge border fence. That scandal represents the broader failures of this government and should not be viewed in isolation. Instead, it should be understood in the context of the general lack of accountability found within the present government. While there has been much talk about ending corruption and enhancing efficiency in government, those aspirations have come to nothing and have been shown to be no more than lip service by those intent on hiding incompetence and corruption. It is up to us as members of this parliament and representatives of the people to step up our efforts in the oversight committees we serve on to bring more accountability to this department and to the government in general. The IFP does not support this report. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. FF Plus? No. Honorable Swart?
Chair, I understand Mr. Thring was going to make a declaration. I'm not sure if he's on the virtual platform. Could we
I am online, House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Thring. Proceed.
Honorable House Chairperson, the ACDP welcomes this report as the Portfolio Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure plays its oversight role as mandated constitutionally. It is crucial that portfolio committees in this Parliament hold cabinet ministers and departmental officials accountable. We dare not abdicate this responsibility. It must be said that the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure is the largest property owner in South Africa, having the largest property portfolio as compared to any private property entity or business in the country. In the private sector, property companies with moderate property portfolios are able to generate profitable returns on investment amounting to millions of rands. Sadly, the same cannot be said for this department. The Committee of Public Works and Infrastructure has observed that in the 2 quarters under observation, not only is the underspending in the various programs, but there is also slow expenditure in all programs relating to compensation of employees and goods and services, which goes against the objectives of the NDP and the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan. In the PMTE, the entity responsible for the planning, acquiring, managing, and disposing of immovable assets in the department's custody, the committee has noted that there's a dearth of stable leadership which weakens its engagements with Treasury and other national departments, resulting in client departments failing to meet their contractual obligations to pay management fees and debts on time. In addition, the failure to complete the Archibus and Sage software systems results in the failure to unlock the value of government assets in the immovable asset register, thus preventing the PMTE from operating efficiently as a profit-making agency. Honorable House Chair, time does not allow me to continue pointing out the many concerns the committee has observed in this report. In accepting this report, however, the ACDP asserts that what is needed in this department and others are able, trustworthy, God-fearing men and women who hate dishonest gain and who have the expertise to bring these entities and departments back from the brink so that our citizens of South Africa may receive the service delivery they so desperately deserve. I thank you.
Thank you. UDM? ATM? Good? No good. NFP?
House Chair, the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure allocated 1 billion to fund departmental cleaning and gardening activities over the medium-term expenditure framework. Another 4.5 billion has been set aside for repairs and the maintenance, 3.9 billion to fund unplanned day-to-day maintenance. Expenditure covered the financial year end March 2020, in which just over 300 landlords were overpaid to the tune of 66 million, most of which the department had a record. Doing anything about this and whether any consequence management interventions have been instituted. Many department officials are susceptible to errors, but strict application of consequence management must go hand in hand with that. Government has forked out 5 billion on renting private properties for government departments and institutions, but the fight is now on top to recoup millions in overpayments to landlords. House Chair, 5 billion is a lot of money, and we need to the minister to account on why there were overpayments made to landlords and a detailed intervention plan on how this can be cut out from the department. We are almost certain that the department will not recoup all those monies. Some of the biggest amounts spent on rental payments were made for buildings occupied by subs, and subs being one of the most corrupt institutions in South Africa, by the way. One company, SKG/Africa Properties, received over 93 million in annual rent for leasing its buildings to police management. Massive annual rent payments were also made on behalf of departments occupying private buildings. The minister came before Parliament not so long ago and told Parliament that her department has been struggling to recoup monies that were owed to it by other departments. As a result, this department has incurred an overdraft amounting to 4.2 billion. What has the minister done about this? We need a report that the deputy president was intervening on this matter, but we all know that he has been in absentia from his duties since inception. Thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Okay, thank you. AIC? No. COPE? Nirni? PAC? Aljama? The ANC.
House Chairperson, members of the Portfolio Committee, members of the House, ministers and deputy ministers present, our Chief Whip of the African National Congress, Pemi Majodin, good afternoon. The Portfolio Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure is tabling to the House for the debate and adoption the report on the 2020-21 first and second quarter performance of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure and Property Management Trading Entity dated 2 December 2020. The departmental spending on its programs was some 3% less in the first quarter than in the previous financial year, which was in large part due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In the first and second quarter, the department was characterized by the underspending in all 5 of its key programs, and at the end of the second quarter, reflected some 5.9% less than the budgeted target. Part of the problem of the underspending is due to the fact that the department having many critical vacancies in terms of staff. In order of the department to optimally perform and meet its mandate and developmental objective, is too important that the department fill its vacancies with suitable qualified personnel. Second quarter spending did not improve in relation to the first quarter of the year and in relation to the second quarter of last year. However, it did improve in the third and fourth quarter, which is a significant sign of a turning around. In the first quarter, all 4 programs were characterized by underspending. The spending in 2 programs reflected just over 17%, namely Program 3 and 5, whilst the other 2 programs spent under 14%, namely Program 1 and 2. Why reflection that capacity and capability need improve for qualitative implementation and departmental programs. The second quarter financial performance did not demonstrate a great
Order, honorable members on the virtual platform.
In comparison to the first quarter or even in the comparison to the same period in the previous financial year. In fact, the spending did not reach the 50% mark and stood at the 41.5%, which was some 2% lower than in the same period of the previous financial year. 3 programs reported spending under 40%. The critical root cause for underspending is large due to staff vacancies in critical areas of the department and its entities. The underspending also translates itself into underperformance in the key programs and in all entities. This must be ratified as a matter of agency to ensure that the department is capable of performing in relation to its performance areas and deliver on the targets of its program. Some 22.1 million was withheld for transfer to provinces and departments due to non-compliance with DORA, delays in implementation of grant-funded projects, delays in reporting of the grant-funded project in the EPWP, and poor spending performance. Non-submission of quarterly evaluation reports by some public bodies also impacted on financial transfers from department to the entities. The departments need to fast-track legislation which can create necessary legislation and regulatory basis for efficient coordination and implementation of its programs. The legislation should also encompass the functioning and accountability of its entity to ensure that these entities deliver on their core mandates. The report makes many important observations which have to be implemented by the department. The department and its entities needs to fill key vacancies to ensure that it has the capacity and capability to implement its program in a skillful manner, ensuring capacity and capability in a critical component of developing a developmental stage which is able to correct the historical injustice of the apartheid past. This is one of the key reasons that the department is unable to perform in terms of its program and meet its key performance targets. The current overdraft and debt level of PMTE needs to be checked sooner rather than later, and this is not economically suitable with a constrained fiscus. Neither is this a reflection of operating the entity on an economical efficient basis. PMET requires the correct skills and capacity to effect its mandate as it has the potential to be a profitable entity. The PMT is an important source of infrastructure development and enhancing economic value. This will facilitate job creation and create a profitable entity. Under the current economic conditions and the high rate of unemployment, it is imperative that the department ensure that the EPW program function efficiently and enhanced. The creation of Infrastructure South Africa as part of economic reconstruction and recovery plan is critical, and its funding under Program 4. It is important as this economic program gains. The portfolio.
Honorable member.
Okay.
Ngiyaxolisa. Qala ngapha ngakuleft kwakho kunjani?
Okay. The department and its entities need to ensure that the observation in the report are implemented. The ANC support the report.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The Honorable, the Chief Whip.
Siyabonga sihlalo walendlu besicela ukuthi lo mbiko lelikomiti wamukelwe ngilendlu esishamthetho. Ngiyabonga.
Sithokoze mhlonishwa ukhona ophikisana naloko kushekushiwo. Yes, Honorable Yako.
Thank you, House Chair. Please note the rejection of the EFF.
Aye, sibone. Yes, sizoyiqala. Okay. The objection of the EFF is noted and the report is thus agreed to. And that, honorable members, conclude the business of the day and the House is adjourned. Thank you.